Ah, yes, people, we are back, and Arsenal is in the Champions League final. Let me just make sure you're nice and clear so you guys can see me, wipe my screen. Oh, let me just clean that a little bit. There you go. Take another sip of water. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Gunner's Corner with your boy CJ. One of the more happier videos that I will be doing on this channel. In fact, I've been pretty happy, I'd like to think so far, with the videos that we've been putting out here on the channel. Like and subscribe and hype the video if you guys don't mind. It would really, really help us out. But yeah, we're in a great mood. This is your boy CJ from the Gunners Corner, and we're reacting to Arsenal just beating Atletico Madrid in the second leg of the Champions League to get to Budapest, to get to the first Champions League final for Arsenal Football Club in 20 years. 2006, people. I was in grade six the last time I saw Arsenal get to a Champions League final. Crying tears of sadness as a little kid, a little 12-year-old kid, 11-year-old kid, whatever I was, watching us lose to Ronaldinho in Barcelona in 2006. When the likes of Thierry Henry, Fabregas, Gilberto Silva, Sol Campbell, Ashley Cole were all still at the club playing in that final. 20 years later, Arsenal Football Club is in the finals of the Champions League once again. It has been a long time coming. We used to pray for times like this, as Meek Mill once said. We are back in the Champions League finals. Now, we haven't won it yet. Job's not finished, as the late Kobe Bryant said, rest in peace. But we're going to be talking about, you know, our route here and, the finals to come. And we have one more game, ladies and gentlemen. What a season it's turning out to be. One more game before we can probably possibly lift the Champions League, and three more games in the Premier League for us to become Premier League champions. Now, a lot to dissect because, yeah, like I said, the journey's been long since we've gotten here. It took us not just this season, but 20 years, right? 20 years was the last time we had to kind of go through that and suffer through a loss and recover. I mean, we made a couple semifinals since, obviously 2009. I think it was 2009 against Man United when we lost. And so last season, 24-25 season, losing to PSG in the semifinals, and obviously we could play them again. So at the time of recording, we don't know whether it's going to be Bayern Munich or PSG, but it is going to be one of the two. So at least now knowing that we're in the final, we can sit back and watch that game tomorrow with our feet up before we go again in the Premier League on the weekend. But yeah, I mean, we're a problem. We're going to be a problem for a lot of teams. We're going to be a problem for, well, I say we're going to be a problem for a lot of teams, but we're a problem for a lot of the teams that we've played already. And we're a problem in Europe. We're a problem in the Premier League. And that's a known fact now, right? And whether you're a manager of Mikel, whether you're a fan, sorry, I can't even talk. I'm so excited. But whether you're a fan of Mikel Arteta or not, we have to acknowledge the work that he's done to get us here thus far. Now, like I said, the job is not done. Shout out to the late great Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. The job is not done. The job is not done because whilst Arteta has got us here, we've been so close to glory under him. Second again, Ole and all that, semifinals of the Champions League last year, now finals this year. It's now time to get over the line in both competitions. In one, if not both, right? This season, we're expecting at least one of those two at this point. And in the position that we're in the Premier League, the position that we've been in the Premier League all season long, you would think that nothing less than winning the league is acceptable, and I would understand that, and I would agree with that, right? That's pretty, fourth time running, trying to go for a title, fourth title race in a row. You have to get over the line this season, regardless of whatever else happens in the Champions League. So that one is pretty, and we're pretty close, right? 3 games away in our hands. But the Champions League, wow. I mean, if you can do a double this season, I mean, geez, I don't even want to start dreaming or thinking about that. But it's where we're at. We're close, and yeah, you gotta go again. You gotta go again. We're gonna enjoy this one tonight. Gotta dust ourselves off and go again and recover because, like I said, the Premier League comes back around quickly this weekend. West Ham away. But yeah, in the Champions League, man, it's been a route that we've deserved, because we put ourselves, you know, we finished top of the group stage in the group phase, I should say, of the Champions League this season. We finished top, which earned us the right to have, second legs all at home throughout the knockout phases, right? Top of the group means, based on seeding, you get, the second leg at home, which has been beneficial to us throughout the campaign in the knockout stages because in the round of 16, we we played Bayer Leverkusen, where we drew the first leg and then won at home in the second. Similar story against Sporting Lisbon. Similar story against Atletico Madrid here today in the semifinals. So we've used and relied on our home crowd and our home fans to get over the line in this competition up to the stage. And again, we've earned that right because we finished top of the group phase, undefeated, undefeated along the way. I think I believe we're the only team in the Champions League to not have lost up to this point. And I think, obviously in the final, that's the big one, right? You lose in the final, that's the biggest loss of them all. But up to this point, when we're undefeated in the Champions League. So, similarly to our last time we won the Premier League in 2004, if we go through this whole Champions League campaign unbeaten, do we get a gold trophy for it? That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? Just to, reclaim our invincible status in Europe. But yeah, we're a problem in Europe where not to be taken lightly. I think teams know that by now. Um, we've earned our right, as I said, to be there, conceding the least amount of goals in the Champions League. This season, I believe it's something like six. You know, um, we've barely conceded in the Champions League. You can see and you can tell our defensive structure is clearly, um, you know, it's Arteta's done really well to make us defensively sound. And in the Champions League and in this competition, where the margins are so tight, winning and losing can be based around your defensive structure. You have to have that. That has to be your foundation in cup competitions and tournaments. If you're defensively sound, you have your opportunities for success are that much greater, right? You give yourself a much greater chance of winning if you have a solid structured defense. Let me just confirm how many goals Arsenal have conceded this season in the Champions League. How many goals have conceded Champions League? So yeah, as I mentioned, Arsenal have conceded only 6 goals in the 25-26 Champions League season. That's fantastic, right? That's championship level form in defense, right? We don't have a Lamine Yamal. We don't have a Kylian Mbappe. We don't have a Vinny Jr. We don't have a Michael Olise, a Harry Kane, Kvaratskhelia. We don't have a Dembele. But what we have is a tight-knit defense, a tight-knit back line, a defensive structure under this manager who's given us a platform to succeed based on a tight defense and a solid back line and a defense who barely concedes goals. And a lot of the time they say defense wins championships. Now, do you guys believe that? Does that carry on in your guys' mind? Do you think that's something that can help get Arsenal go over the line and get over the line and go all the way in this competition? Let us know, right? Let me know in the comments and give me your thoughts on that. This is a very interesting topic of conversation. No, we don't necessarily have a world-class forward. A lot of people would argue that, but like I said, what we have is a world-class defense. Can that be enough to get Arsenal their first Champions League crown ever? Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, like I said, you earned the right to be here because of the reasons I mentioned. And it was a similar story in 2006, our last Champions League final, when our back line was a big part of why we got there. Now, of course, we had Mr. Thierry Henry himself, who was, one of the best strikers of all time. That definitely helped us get to at least the final, and that in that period in time, 20 years ago. We don't necessarily have a Thierry Henry now, but one thing is consistent to what we had in 2006 is a tight-knit back line. I believe en route to the final, that team, the 2006 Arsenal team that lost in the finals, they didn't concede for. I mean, I'm pretty sure almost all throughout the knockout stages, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody might have to fact check me on that, but the bottom line is they barely conceded any goals as well throughout the duration of that campaign and throughout the duration of the knockout phases. They didn't really concede. They had a strong, solid back line under Arsene Wenger that they built that helped get them to the final, along with, the world-class man himself, Thierry Henry. And so, we found a way this time around because, like I said, we don't have a Thierry Henry, but we've gotten goals by committee, we've won games by committee, by, a team effort, and it's something that is wonderful to see because a lot of the time, like I said, they say that you need that world-class forward, that world-class difference maker, that game changer, that match winner, the guy who has that moment of magic. You need that in your side in order to win certain tournaments, World Cups, Champions Leagues. And then we don't have that. So are we going against the grain, or is it more so the case that defense wins championships rules heavy over having a match winner or having a superstar player or having that extra bit of star quality up top, that makes the difference in the final third? We're gonna see, and this is why we have a chance in the finals. Whoever we get, whether it's PSG or Bayern Munich, we're gonna have ourselves a chance to win in the final. People may be already ruling us out or writing us off, but that would be incorrect. I would advise against that because again, styles make fights. So whilst they look like they have a bunch of offensive prowess and star power in the final third, both of those teams, they concede goals, right? They've conceded all throughout the tournament. Obviously the first leg, which we all enjoyed from a neutral's perspective between Bayern and PSG, that one had 9 goals in it. They finished 5-4. So clearly both of those back lines can be got at, right? So what that means to me, what that tells me is if we have a defensive structure and we're not as open as either of those sides defensively, right? And we don't concede open spaces and we don't concede silly chances on the break or in transition, et cetera, we're going to give ourselves a chance. If you stay in that game in a one-off final and your defense is tight knit and you shut out the spaces and you don't allow their technicians to operate, and we stay compact as a unit as we have been all season long in both the Champions League and the Premier League, you're always going to give yourself a chance. In a one-off final, we're undefeated in this competition. We finished top of the group phase. Why would we not be confident? We've already beaten the Bayern Munich this season. We beat PSG, albeit last season, but it's a similar team. We beat them last season, and we show we can go toe to toe with them. Um, in this time around, like I said, it's a similar PSG team, but they don't have Donnarumma. They don't have Donnarumma, who was a difference maker in the semifinals last year when we played PSG. So we go in there and should go in there with nothing to fear. And this group, I think, will have nothing to fear. What's interesting about this is that the final is going to come. Um, I think a couple weeks or whatever, or not too long. Essentially, I think it's a week maybe after the Premier League season concludes. So by that time, will we have been crowned Premier League champions already? That's going to be, we're wait to see what's going to happen there in the Premier League. If we win the Premier League, it's going to give us 10 times more confidence, I believe, to go into that Champions League final with an extra bit of boost, with a pep in our step, with the momentum. And we're going to see if that's going to make a difference, right? Whether we win or lose the Premier League going into the Champions League final, what state of mind are we going to be in off the conclusion of the Premier League? So there's a lot still to play for. It's going to be very, very, very interesting. And I'm excited. We're excited. It's a great time to be an Arsenal fan. What a time to be alive. Um, we have to call out a couple of the things when we're talking about defensive structure. We have to call out and talk about Declan Rice because I think he won man of the match in the game, and I think that was deserved. I think that was well deserved because that man, Declan Rice, when you put him as a number six, he's a brilliant all-around midfielder. He's been learning his trade as a number eight, under Mikel Arteta, but I think we've seen in the last few games, Arteta's fine-tuned a couple of things, and he's put Declan Rice back in that number six position. And defensively, there is not a better number six around in the game today. I stand on that. Let's go into specifically to the Premier League for a second. Rodri is a brilliant number six. He's only better than Declan Rice on the ball. That's it. But defensively, I think Declan Rice is a better defensive midfielder than Rodri. Rodri's a better all-around player and a better all-around six for the modern game because he, has that ball playing ability. He has that eye for a pass. He's a technician in midfield, and he's a link from back to front. That's what he does better than Declan Rice. Declan Rice lacks the ball progression, but as a defensive midfielder, on the defensive side of the game, there's nobody better than Declan Rice, and I include Rodri in that. The way Declan Rice eats up the ground, his recovery pace, his tackling, his positioning, as a solid defensive midfielder, that to screen your back forward from a defensive standpoint, Declan Rice is the number one player in this world that you would want to do that job over anybody else. That's a fact. So, obviously since N'Golo Kante, he's obviously in the back end of his career now. I think N'Golo Kante in his prime and Declan Rice in his prime, Declan Rice can give Kante a run for his money, and that's a conversation that we can have another day. Obviously, N'Golo Kante has set the bar very high in terms of a solid, sort of defensive midfielder who can eat up ground and win tackles and win the ball back quickly and press and all those things. So Declan Rice in his prime, and N'Golo Kante in his prime, I'd love to see that one. He'd give him a good run for his money, would Declan Rice. So Declan Rice obviously needs the trophies to go with it. Conte's won it all, even internationally. So Declan Rice would need the trophies for that as well. But if we're talking about in today's game, the modern game, um, you know, and the current players who are playing and in their prime and etc. Like I said, Rodri's the only one I think that can talk to Declan Rice in a number six position. In a number eight position, Rice is still learning that, box to box midfielder. He's learning how to perfect that. He's got to be more progressive with the ball at his feet. Got to look to play forward a little bit more in order to, I think fully establish himself as a proper like Lampard, Gerrard type midfielder, box to box. But put him a little bit deeper in midfield, number six, screen the back four. He's an animal, and I think rightfully so. He deserved his man of the match. He will bail his other teammates out. He's a player. If I'm playing with, I'd love to play alongside because if I make a mistake or, if we're up against it in transition when we lose the ball, you already know Declan Rice is the first man back to get in position to cover, to break up play, etc. I think we got to keep him as a number six. I think at this moment in time, I think we've sort of established that he is best as a number six, and we may need to look to get another number eight going forward, whether that's Miles Lewis Skelly, whether that's Zubimendi, and we swap that around. But I think going forward, Declan Rice, I think his best position is a number six, and I think you got to play him there. He just gives us that extra bit of defensive solidity when he's playing in that position, and I think that's the way forward, especially if you want to add to what's already a strong defensive unit. And to protect an already strong back four, I think you set Declan Rice in front of that back four as your number six to give you that foundation. And I think that's going to give us the best chance of success in the final, is playing Declan Rice in that position. I want to give a couple of the shout outs to certain players. Ben White, I think, had a fantastic game, really good game. We've been calling for Timber to come in for a very long time now. And Timber is and has been number one all season, but Ben White's come back in, and I think today he proved why, he's such a good player still, and he's got a lot to bring to the table. He's a big asset for us, and we can't forget what he did when he was fit a couple of years ago before his injury, right? He's back, he's better, it looks like, and yeah, I'm happy for him, because he's been looking shaky, he's been looking rusty the last few weeks, Ben White, but now he's here and he's Champions League semi-final. He's put himself forward and helped us get to a final. Part of a back line that's kept a clean sheet. So big on him and good on him. Very happy for him and very happy for this whole team. As I said, we can run through a whole bunch of players and we can sit here and talk about, everybody that's played their part. But, obviously, ultimately, it's that man, Saka. And I did mention that it's our defensive structure that's going to help us get over the line if we were to win this thing. Um, but there are certain players who, at the top end of the pitch, they have a little bit extra to give us something. And obviously, right away, you're thinking as a Saka in his prime or when he's doing really well and he's fit. Obviously, we haven't seen the best of Saka for almost 2 seasons now because of injuries. But you know, there's nobody better who could have scored that goal to send us to a final than Saka, and nobody who deserves it more. He's been here through us, through it all under Arteta's reign when we were in the mud at the beginning. Come back in now, and he's done his thing. Um, and he's been that guy to again, year over year, be the main man in attack, and it's only right that he scores the winning goal today for us to get us to the final. 1-0 to the Arsenal, and Saka's the guy that scores the goal that gets us there. It's only right. It only makes sense. So good on him, and I'm extremely pleased for him. He deserves that. He really, really does. And yeah, hopefully he can do one further in the final for us. Um, and we go again. And Gyökeres as well, I want to shout him out. Fantastic game. All the front three, actually. Trossard had a good game, in my opinion, as well, both offensively and defensively. Kept the ball really well, worked hard, work rate, track back, sliding and trying to make challenges and tackles at the top of our own 18-yard box. But yeah, Gyökeres, like I said, he put himself about. The defenders were having a hard time dealing with him. His physicality, his strength, and he was running the channels really, really well. A couple times linked up play, picked out a good pass after holding the ball up. So Gyökeres is really improving and learning, and we're happy to see it. We really are happy to see it. And so, yeah, just buzzing with that. I'm still soaking it all in. I don't know about you guys, but I'm gonna go in and watch all the Arsenal content tonight and tomorrow and for the rest of the week. We're in a good moment. This month is still has the opportunity to be the best season for us in recent memory because Champions League final, 3 games from a Premier League title. Wow, you couldn't ask for much more, right? So let's see how it concludes. Still a long way to go. But yeah, we're buzzing with that. Absolutely buzzing with that. And in the final, we have as good a chance as anything to play either, PSG or a Bayern. We're only going to play one of them. That's the first thing because they're going to knock each other. One's going to knock the other out. So we're only going to play one. And at that point, in a one-off game, You fancy us. You fancy your chances. You never rule out this Arsenal team. How is a team who has conceded 6 goals in the competition all season long, a team who, is undefeated in the Champions League up to this point? How do you rule a team out like that? You simply can't. So we have every chance in the world in a one-off game against two teams that we've already beaten in this competition in the last year and a half, 2 years. Don't rule us out. We're here, and we've made a point in the last couple seasons to be, a force to be reckoned with in Europe. Our first season back in the Champions League was the 23-24 season, if I'm not mistaken. Quarterfinals, lost to Bayern Munich of all teams. Last season, 24-25 season, semifinals, lost to PSG. This year in the final, can we go one step further? Can we win it all against one of PSG or Bayern and right some wrongs? It's only right. I think we owe Bayern one too. If they get there, we owe them one for what they've done to us in this competition for years. And PSG, again, we were slightly unlucky last year against them, so we'll fancy our chances. Arteta's going to have the boys riled up. We're going to be confident. We're going to be strong. Um, and like I said, if the Premier League season ends the way it's supposed to as well, it's going to be some energy boost going into the Champions League final. So listen, I'm all over the place right now. I'm thinking loud and I'm just talking words and just thinking out loud, and it's an emotional match reaction is what it is. But I'm sure you guys can all understand and feel the same way at the moment. So listen, we have a lot more to kick on and look forward to. Come on, the Arsenal. Two big competitions left. One we haven't won in 20 plus years. One we haven't won ever. Let's get over the line, and Europe needs to take notice because we are here and we're not going away, right? Our structure, our resilience, our mentality, our group, and that's one more thing I wanted to add before we conclude. The team camaraderie in this group, you can tell how hungry they are. You can see it, the Arteta, another thing he's done really well for all the criticism we give him, another thing he's done really well, Arteta is, the very fact that he's made the team one, he's made the team believe, he's made the group, the collective believe, which is there transmitted to the fans. He's made the fans believe the fans and the players are one. You saw it today at the Emirates. We had probably one of the best atmospheres we've ever had. We've had fans outside the ground before the game welcoming the team and the team bus into the stadium. You saw the tifo on display. Like Arteta has really come in and united this group. He's united the team, and he's built a good chemistry and a good, you know, affection and love for the players amongst one another. Right? They have a really close knit group there, and then the love and affection from the players to the fans is a whole other thing, right? We love this group of players. Back in the day, we never used to like some of those players that were playing in our banter era, right? We didn't connect with Bellerins or Mustafis or Socrates and these guys, but we connect with this group. We love almost everyone in the group. You feel it. So, I think that spirit can help get us over the line. Momentum is a real thing. And I truly believe that these guys are going to go in every bit of confidence, and why wouldn't we be based on the Champions League campaign we've had? Well measured professional performances away from home, come back home in the knockout stages and taking care of business with the fans behind us and supporting us. So that we would need the same in Budapest in a one-off game. You never know what can happen. We need the fans, and yeah, the vibes are going to be high from now to the end of the season. Let's hope that we can keep players fit, because I truly think that's the only thing that can derail us, or destabilize us is injuries, as it always has been. So let's keep our guys fit. Knock on wood, right? Prayers up that everybody stays fit. We get Timber back. We get our players well rested, and we go again in the Premier League, and let's see what happens. It can still be a brilliant end to the season for us. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been CJ from the Gunners Corner. Please like and subscribe, as we always say, and hype the video as well, as it really does help us out. And we will be here for more content to come to keep you guys entertained, to keep you guys active and lively, and let's enjoy the rest of the season together. So take care, y'all. Like I said, hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. This has been CJ from the Gunners Corner. Take care. We're out.